everyone. Welcome back to our practical skills session here at our Equip 2525 week. We've had a lot of great opportunities and guests and things. Our next presenter, most of us know he's been around in this territory for a long time. He was a DMD in the Metro Division and transitioned to territorial headquarters many years ago. 22 years he has been at our territorial headquarters. There's very few people that I know that have the typesetting skills and the knowledge that Marty has. And because of that, he's very invested in our publications here in the Central Territory, as well as keeping tabs on what other territories do. And we kind of glean from a lot of different places, and there's a lot of things that Marty does and knows. We have house rules and things like that for publishing, and he keeps track of all of that stuff. But he's going to come and talk to us about publications. And so if we could just put our hands together and welcome Marty Thomas.
Thank you. The handout is coming around. I tried to make a list, a comprehensive list of all of Salvation Army publications, so we know what music is available and what is suitable for our different groups. Because we have anything from 4-part stuff all the way up to full brass band, and you may not need all that. I do want to say from the beginning, there is a one-stop place to find the music once you know what series you're looking for, and that is samusicindex.com. I think most of you are familiar with that right now, but if you're not, it is an online resource of every piece of published Salvation Army music that's ever been out. And it includes series that I'm not covering in this today. But if you want to find a piece of music, if you're looking for a specific title, samusicindex.com is the place to go. There are also audio and video samples of many of the pieces that are listed on there. And for some of them, you can even purchase a digital download to get the music. But I want to start in the grid that I've passed out. I've listed all the possible instruments available and then tried to go series by series as to which ones include those parts. Starting from SATB, which is not vocal music, that is our Salvation Army tune book. But it's good because it really is an SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass production. If you look at the keyboard book, the piano book that comes with the Salvation Army tune book, it is 4-part writing, and it is choral SATB. How that translates then into the different parts, solo and first cornet are combined, and that is your first part, your soprano part. Second cornet would be your second part, B flat, but also solo and first horn, which are combined, are also second part or your alto part. Your baritone and your second horn are your third part. So if you only have 4 players, even if one of them is a trombone player, give them the baritone book, because that's going to cover third part. The trombone part is an extra part, and it's not necessarily a third part. But if you're looking to cover all 4 voices, you want to go with the baritone book rather than the trombone book, even if it's a trombone player, because that's going to give you your third or your tenor part. And then fourth part is your tubas, or the bass part is your tubas. So the essential parts that you need, if you have 4 players, you want parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, which would be first cornet on 1, solo and first horn or second cornet on 2, second horn or baritone on part 3, and then tubas on part 4. Everything else is optional and adds color and adds flavor. Soprano, flugelhorn, the trombone parts, and euphonium. There is one percussion book, and it's usually just snare drum, bass drum. There may be some cymbal in there, but there's not a timpani book. If you have a timpani player for tune books, give them an E flat bass part, because they can read it as bass clef remove 3 sharps or add 3 flats to get the proper key. But the E flat bass book would work for a timpani player. Again, first and second baritone are combined into just one baritone book there. And again, solo and first cornet are one book, solo and first horn. There are not optional F or bass clef parts for the tune book other than bass clef or bass trombone, which again is more of a trombone book. It's not going to mimic exactly the bass clef or the E flat and B flat bass. If you have tuba player who reads bass clef, again, give them an E flat tuba book and they'll have to adjust key signatures, but they can read it as it is. Another resource along those same lines are the Hallelujah choruses, and I'm going to include the American Instrumental Ensemble Series. Yes. As far as it's, again, the basic is it's 4-part writing. And then when you add the trombones, euphonium, soprano, flugel, those are all extra parts. Okay. If you look at the piano tune book and you take your first cornet, your second cornet, your baritone, and your B flat bass, it should all line up exactly with what's in the 4-part piano writing. Those are the 4 essential parts, your SATB, which is what the last tune book did. The old red books that we grew up with, that was more of like a Triumph series scoring, where it wasn't really 4-part writing. It was, and that's why those arrangements sounded different. But they came back to, with the previous tune book and this one, it's 4-part writing, and then the trombones and soprano, all those are kind of extra stuff. But it is, that's why if you want to cover that baritone part before the trombone part if you don't have a second horn, because that's going to be your 3rd part. That's going to be your tenor voice. Any other questions on the tune book? All right, so I'm going to do the Hallelujah choruses and the American Instrumental Ensemble Series together because they're really scored the same. They serve different functions. The Hallelujah choruses are meant as song accompaniments, and the American Instrumental Ensemble Series is more of a selection. There are some chorus sing-alongs, but it's really meant as more of a maybe a prelude or a band selection or anything. But they're scored the same way because, again, you have 4 basic parts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I have them listed there again. First cornet is B flat part 1. Second cornet is B flat part 2. First horn, E flat 2. But there's the F part that goes with that, E flat and F for second part, E flat and F for third part. There's a C instrument part available for each of those, which is the first part again. Then we go through second horn and first baritone, again covering the third part. The trombone is not its own separate part like the tune book. It's baritone / trombone, so those are both going to be 3rd B flat. The tubas are 4th part. Euphonium is 5th part. I'm not sure if it's still considered optional in the American Instrumental Ensemble Series. In the Hallelujah choruses, the euphonium is not an optional part. It's actually 5-part writing, so it is an essential voice. So you want to have that covered. Each of the Hallelujah choruses in American Instrumental Ensemble Series offers 2 different percussion parts. For the Hallelujah choruses, part 2 is drum set. Occasionally it will be side percussion, bass drum, snare drum, if it's a hymn tune, kind of a march setting. And then the first percussion part is either going to be a mallet, which is timpani or bells or xylo, or any other auxiliary instruments, shakers, tambourines, those kinds of things. But part 2 is specifically drum set or side percussion that could be covered on a drum set if you have one player. So that if you have one player and it's a drum set player, you won't want part 2, but that's pretty evident. The American Instrumental Ensemble Series, it depends on the arrangement. Sometimes you might have bells on part 1 and maybe a tambourine or some other auxiliary, but there are 2 separate parts, and those are optional for each of those. They both have keyboard parts. But for the American Instrumental Ensemble series, it's just kind of a condensed score, and it's at the bottom of the score. So if you only had, with the American Instrumental Ensemble series, if you only had 3 players, you could have a piano player playing the score to kind of fill in the rest and have the other players on top of that. So you could still do the selections. If you're missing one of those inner parts, it could be covered by the piano if they read from the bottom of the score, because it's condensed there. The keyboard part in the Hallelujah choruses functions along with the band, can be used without the band or with the band. And we also include bass guitar and guitar parts for that as well. The guitar parts have kind of taken a strange curve through the years. It used to be like kind of a rhythm part, but now what we do is what we call our guitar lead sheet. So if you have a worship leader who plays guitar, it has all the capos for him, so you can play along with the arrangement with the band. It's intended that. So it's the same keys, introductions are there, the melody line is there, so he can lead singing, he can see where the melody line goes, but he also sees all the interludes and what the band is doing, so he knows when to come in. And we also have available what we call a master lead sheet, which could be piano or bass guitar. But if you just have a song leader and you're using the band, rather than trying to guess when they're supposed to come in, all the interludes, everything is printed on that sheet. So if you're a song leader, rather than just at the chorus book, which just shows the melody and nothing else, it follows the arrangement. So the master and guitar leads, and those are included when you purchase the set. You get the master and the guitar leads for each of those. And we've gone back now all the way back to number 1. So those are available. And that's the other thing with the Hallelujah choruses, we now have these part books where if you haven't bought the series from the beginning, we now have, you can buy like a cornet book that's 1 to 100, 101 to 200, and very soon 201 to 300, because we've just gone up to 300 now. So you can get those, but you can get any individual part for the Hallelujah choruses in those part books. So if you don't have the master or the guitar leads and you like those, and the master lead, it really for song leaders is really, really helpful. If you have someone who can read music and follow, it just makes it a lot easier. But also if you're doing guitar stuff, I know you do guitar every now and then, to have that and to be able to lead from that, it's really helpful. Josh Turner uses the guitar lead at our core because we do a lot with the guitar and the band. And I know the singers on the worship team will use the master leads when the band is playing, because again, it just, everything is spelled out right there for them. Are there any questions about either of those series? Yes. Yes, you'd have to buy the 201 to 300. Yeah, because we're not going to do the intermediate because they want it. It'd be just as easy to buy the other book. It's not going to be priced. It wouldn't be priced any different. So to have them all in one book would be better. But yeah, when we did that, we knew that we'd be coming up and we had to figure out, but that was the best way to do that, Alexis. It is not. In the early arrangements, like maybe the first 70, 80, maybe even through the first 100, it was optional, but we, a few years ago, went to straight 5-part writing. So it's better not to treat it as optional, because some of them it will be, but then all of a sudden it's not. There is an E-flat soprano part available as well. And sometimes it's labeled as E-flat 1, but again, we've gone to more of a soprano part. So that's more of an optional part. I wouldn't, you can't just, oh, I don't have a first cornet B-flat player, I'll just get the E-flat part. It's not gonna work. You need to have that B-flat 1 or the C1. You could do it with a baritone. If you had a trombone and a baritone player, you could do it with baritone, but what's that? Yes. Well, no. Trombone is part 3. then you could do the trombone on 5. Yeah. And then the other thing we have is we took some of these specifically and made a quintet album. We have a quintet album available that has all the different voicings and explanations on it. And I didn't include that here. If you go to Trade Central website, that should be there. And I can send you excuse me. I can send you information on the quintet series. I think it has, I don't know, I want to say 12 titles, maybe 15. But we rearranged some of the stuff a little bit. If there were divises in the first cornet part, we took those out, and we had to do some playing with some of the other ones to make sure they would fit. No, it's 8.5 by 11. It's 8.5 by 11. I believe I think they sell the part books for like $20 each. And again, a few years ago, we gave every corps in the territory the part books up through 250. The part books. It depended on the size of your corps band. You would have probably gotten a larger set at Rockford, and I'll have to, I don't know if Beth is, no, Beth. So, nope, you should have, and I can show you part books, but you should have gotten a full set of stuff. It would have come through the division. So if you don't have it, yeah, and we'll check, yeah, because I forget how they were distributed, but we sent them to the corps, I think we sent them to DHQ, and then DHQ was supposed to get them to the corps. So, but there would have been a DMD in place when that happened, so it should have happened. In the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, because we were. Yeah, but you should have enough part books for your band. You should have enough part books for your band. Yes. What's that? Oh, wasn't me, but yeah, no, it was a long time, and it was a lot of work to get administration on board with that, but it was glad we were able to get that done. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, I think we were up to like maybe 260 or 270 at that time, but it was easier to do the book to 250. Put 50 in a book rather than 70. It was just kind of a weird number. But we just completed 300 like this year, and we're working with Trade on how they want to do the part books and get those up. The new series is now out and available, and if you're on a subscription, you should be getting it soon. But the part books themselves are probably by September, I would think they'd be ready to go. Oh yeah. So the other thing that we're doing with both Trade Central and SA Music Index, with SA Music Index, we have made available every non-copyrighted arrangement. So if it's public domain, or if it's held in copyright by the Salvation Army, so we don't have to pay ourselves to do that, whether it's SPNS or another territory, and a few other individuals have allowed us to use their music. Those are available as digital downloads from either SA Music Index or Trade Central. I would recommend Trade Central for that, because it's cheaper than going to SA Music Index for the Hallelujah choruses, because it's our product. So we made sure that we'd be able to sell it cheaper than they can, so that we can make money, because we don't make as much money when they sell it as when we sell it. But if it's public domain or non-copyright, then those are available as a digital download. And I don't know if it's like $10 or $15, and then you have it. But with the new series, this 28, which is 291 to 300, even the copyrighted tunes will be available as digital downloads. And we're going back 1 year to 27. So 280 to 300 should be available as individual digital downloads through Trade Central. And every year as we add one, we're going to go back a year and do that. The reason we're only doing 10 or 20 at a time is because the copyright costs are a lot more expensive when you're dealing with digital than if you're dealing with print. It costs, I'm not even sure, but it's crazy ridiculous how much more it costs to get copyright permission for a digital dissemination than it is for that. I also know that if you buy the set of 10 digitally, it would be cheaper than buying each title individually. Because we want people to buy the whole set. We want them to get all 10. And it would be cheaper to get the paper copies than it would be to get the digital. Because again, we want people to buy the sets that we're producing. And it's cheaper for us to sell that than it would be because of the copyright costs on those. Yeah. A master lead sheet or a guitar lead sheet? Yes. And so yeah. Well, with the part books that came out, there should be a master and guitar leads. So you should have 1 to 250 that way. So then when the part books become available, you could get the 201 to 300. But if you have a subscription to each thing, then you're going to have the paper copies every year and you could put them in a book yourself. If no, only in the groups of 10. And again, that's because like from 201 to 300, let's say, probably half of those songs are copyright. They're outside copyright. So in order to make that digitally available, we would have to pay the copyright on all those. And right now we're only doing outside copyrights from 280 to 300 because of the increased cost for the digital ones. We would love to be able to do everything digitally, but the cost for outside copyrighted tunes to do digitally is, I don't know, 5 to 10 times more expensive than it is to do the paper one as part of a group of 10. And yeah, there are some that we can't get permission. So it seems like an easy thing. Well, you have them as digital copies, we could just do this, but it's the copyright. And because of COVID and there are more things going out digitally, companies are really tightening up what they're doing permission for. And it's the cost, it's crazy. And it varies from publisher to publisher too. But we were able to get permission that THQ has gone on saying we will pay the copyrights to do the ones that were, for this year and last year and that, but the cost is really amazing. And if you go to SA Music Index, you can get Unity series and Festival series and all those other things, but only if they're Army owned copyrights. They're not doing anything that they don't own the copyright for because of the expense to obtain the copyright permission. So we're getting there. We're making progress. And I know, like, because I like to have those digital copies because I use an iPad. I use my iPad as my folder for the band, for the corps, for the staff band, because I have old eyes and it's nice to have it big and bright and that. It's nice to set up things that way. All right, any other questions? Hallelujah choruses, because I do want to touch some of these other things. So the next one, the Unity series, is published in London at IHQ. So Unity, Triumph General, Festival, and Judd Street, those are all international publications. But again, for different size band. The Unity is, again, 5-part writing. But they do their counting in score order. So euphonium is part 4 and tubas are part 5, which is different from the way that we do it. But again, the essential parts, if you have a first cornet, that's your first part. Second cornet and first horn are your second part. Second horn and baritone / trombone are your third part. Euphonium is your fifth, and tubas are your fourth part. They do have optional parts. Probably the last, I don't know, I'd say 10 or 12 years. I mean, they're up in the, I should have printed the number of pieces available, but they're well up into the 400s now. But probably the first 300, the optional parts weren't available, but they now have part C1 and 3 and 5 and 4. So you can get bass clef parts for your lower instruments and a C part for 1. They do not do French horn parts, but there are optional parts that come with that as well. That's Uni series, and it's 4-part writing, well, 5-part writing because of euphonium. But the other series that goes along with that, and I don't have that listed here, is the SA Classics series, where they've taken classic pieces from the festival and general series and rescored them for the Unity series, so down as 5 parts. Yeah, and they're good arrangements. You have to have good players if you only have 5, especially tuba. There's not a lot of time to breathe. But yeah, there's some really good selections and pieces in that, and scored for 5 players, and we've used a few of those at our core during this time as well. But it's scored the same as the Unity series, but it doesn't have the optional parts. So again, your first cornet is first part, second cornet and first horn are second part, second horn and baritone / trombone are third part, euphonium, and then tubas. So, but there's some good stuff, and I think there might be about 20 titles available in those. I'm not sure the price on those. I know that Trade Central does carry those, because I walk downstairs and grab some for our core. It's nice working in the same building as Trade sometimes. Any questions on classics or that? So then the ABJ is the American Band Journal. This is published out of New York. And this has been around for a while, and they're up in the 300-400s. I haven't checked all the numbers, sorry about that. But the ABJ is stepping up a little bit in instrumentation. It's actually, you need 9 players for the American Band Journal. The essential parts are 2 first cornets, a second cornet, because there's often a divisi in the first cornet, a second cornet, first and second horns, first and second trombones, euphonium, tuba. Those are all required parts. Everything else then is optional. And I've listed that on there, as you can see, the optional parts. Soprano is optional, flugel is optional. Baritone, there's 1 baritone part, that's optional. Bass trombone is optional. And actually both percussion parts are optional. But it's 9-part writing. Some of the pieces are fairly accessible. Some of them are pretty difficult. One of the hardest marches, Hillcrest, is in the American Band Journal. That's a tough march. I think Bill marked that as a 9 or whatever the top of his scale is, and it's a hard march. It's some good writing. But again, you need 2 first cornets, because there's often a divisi, a second cornet, first and second alto, first and second trombone, euphonium, and then tubas. Next up on the list is the Triumph series, which again comes from London, which is very close to the American Band Journal, but it has a few more essential parts, because it adds first and second baritone in there. Soprano is, with the most part, with some of the soprano and the flugelhorn, those are often cued if it is an essential part, if you don't have those, and bass trombone is often cued if you don't have those. But the Triumph has soprano, first and second cornet. The flugelhorn part is included in the second cornet part. It's part of the second cornets. So on the second cornet part, if it specifies flugel, it will say flugel, play here. But it's part of the second cornet part in the Triumph series. then first and second horn, first and second baritone, trombones all the way down. One or two percussion parts, usually not more than that. When we get up to all the rest, general, American Festival Series, Judd Street, those are for full brass band, where all parts now are necessary. So soprano, solo, first and second cornet, flugelhorn, solo, first and second horn, first and second baritone, first and second trombone, bass trombone, euphonium, tubas, and even in some of the festival and American Festival Series, Judd Street, you'll have up to 3 percussion parts as well. So it really, if you have a full band, and those are more challenged. The general series is usually more accessible. The festival series stopped a number of years ago at number 600 and was replaced by Judd Street Collection. Some of the more accessible titles are now in the general series going forward. The Unity, Triumph, General, and in general used to be the March card size. They're now full pages. Festivals full pages, although it's bigger than it used to be. It used to be the smaller ones, but they're now full page. Judd Street is full page. American Festival Series, we produce that here at THQ. Same scoring. One of the differences, we do offer bass clef parts for trombone, first and second trombone, for tuba, for euphonium. We'll offer the bass clef parts where those are not offered by any of the ones coming out of England. Yeah, Dave. No. And what we're doing is copying individual titles and passing out the copies. You could get a 3-ring binder and just punch the holes and make your own kind of things there for, maybe for this. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we have at Norwich, we have like accordion folders that will hold our band folder, which is like a loose leaf, 2-pocket folder, which will have the general festival series and all the Unity series, that kind of stuff in it. But it will also hold our Hallelujah Chorus part books. It will hold our tune books. It will hold our gray favorites, red favorites, pretty favorites, all the favorites books. So everything we need is in this accordion folder, and then you'll just take it out, which is another reason I really like my iPad, because I just carry my iPad instead of that big folder. I just have to make sure that when we get new music, I scan it and put it in. Yep. Yeah. Every band should have a good librarian. And there are people that like love that stuff. There are people, and actually, I'm I was a quartermaster at the Corps and quartermaster for staff band, but I would love to be the librarian. Seriously, Tom, I would love to be the librarian because I like doing all that stuff. And when I was at Metro as a DMD, like I would spend hours putting the Metro Youth Band folders together, but I would know that every folder had every piece of music. The kids couldn't say, "Oh, I don't have that." I'm like, I know you do because I put it in there. I put it in there. The other thing too I want to talk about were the favorites books. Uh, there's the Unity, Triumph in general, all have their own favorites. Now they're older pieces, and again, it's March card size. The Unity series is a blue one. The Triumph series is the gray favorites. The General series is the red, or as we like to say, the scab favorites. I say that just because it's kind of that color, but we have a person in our band that gets really squeamish when we say scab. And then there's what we call either the pretty or the rainbow favorites, which is a mixture of General and Triumph series pieces. The issue with that is they're scored differently. General series has solo cornet, first cornet, and second cornet. Triumph series has first cornet and second cornet. Now, if I'm looking at staff band or core band, front row plays solo cornet. I have half first cornets, half second cornets. But if it's festival series, front row is first cornet, the entire back row is second cornet. So it balances out. But what they've done in the books, in the favorites books, is if it's solo cornet, it will have all the solo and first cornet parts. If it's first cornet, it will have all the first and first cornet parts. And if it's second cornet, it will only have second cornet parts. So if it's a Triumph series piece that's in the pretty favorites, you now have 5 in the front row and 2 in the back row on first cornet and only 2 on second cornet. Why they didn't put second cornet Triumph series parts in that first cornet book, I don't know. And it's the same thing with the horn books as well. So if you are using the pretty favorites and it's a Triumph series piece, you're going to be out of balance with your cornets and maybe your horns. Horns, it's usually not as much of an issue, but cornets it is. So you need to be aware of what the instrumentation in the pretty favorites is, or the rainbow favorites, so that you can balance out your cornets, so you don't have too many people playing on that first part. It's gonna be 6 against 1. It's gonna be 6 against 1. Yeah, so you just have to, as a bandmaster, do some work and look at the score and see if it's solo first and second, or if it's just first and second, because then you're gonna want to make sure that that second cornet gets some help. Yeah. When you get into the General and Festival series, there'll be more divided, but not as much. But nowadays everything is cued. Yeah. So if you're playing, and even again, during COVID, we had 9 people playing in the band at one point, 1 tuba player. And then one week we did People Need the Lord out of the pretty favorites, which is General series scored. And I was the only tuba player. And anytime I would be hoping to rest, I have to play B flat bass cues. Okay, I can rest here. Oh no, that's a bass trombone cue, and we don't have bass trombone because there's only 9 of us. So I ended up playing like the whole piece except for 2 bars, which is a lot of playing. But saying that's a little bit older piece, and even then it was cued. So most things, the tuba parts are going to be cued across at that. And in the E flat part, a lot of times it will say, play the lower note. If there's a division, play the lower note if there's no B flat. So usually that's not much. Maybe in some of the older stuff in the Festival and General series, you might have to worry about that. But most of the newer stuff, all that stuff's going to be cued, as well as bass trombone, as well as soprano and flugelhorn. Those are, if it's essential, it'll be covered because not everyone has that. And even like I know the American Festival series, we do, if the first trombone part is split, that bottom part will be cued in the baritone, in the first baritone. Usually it'll be cued somewhere, so that, because it's not a given that you're going to have 2 first trombone players. So we've gotten better, I think, all around as cueing, so that we can make this stuff more accessible. Yeah. I don't think so, because they've gone to A4. They've gone to full pages rather than the March card size. And I don't think they're going to reset anything for a March card. Yeah, I don't know. And with a lot of stuff now being available as a digital download, I mean, you could get just that one piece that you're looking for. Because it used to be that if you bought the general or festival series, you're getting four pieces. You're getting the full fold out, and that's how they did it. But now that you can, so they put favorites in there because these are the ones that people liked, and they didn't want to have to buy all four or want all four. So I think now that you can get stuff as digital downloads, I don't think that's on their radar. And actually, publishing worldwide, it took a big hit during COVID, just because there's no one who can. We have music, but no one can play it because we can't get together. And I know our publications, which is Hallelujah Chorus's American Festival Series, both came under scrutiny as to whether or not we would continue publishing, but we are. So we were able to go on with that. But I know, there's other things have been scaled back, some of the vocal series and things and that, but we're moving forward with that. Yes. I have no idea, because some of those I'm looking at, I'm like, this is not my favorite. There's other stuff that I'd like to see in those books that's not there. Yeah. They have different tastes in England than we do here. They like fish and chips. We like French fries. I don't know. But yeah, there's I imagine most of those decisions were made in London. Certainly not American favorites.
Do we sell all of this music to anybody that wants to buy it nowadays, or is there certain series that
No, everything is available. And again, especially with SA Music Index, if people want to get, outside groups want to get, the Holy War or something like that, those are available and they can get them as digital downloads. We're not limiting who can buy our music. I mean, we did that before, but hate to say it's money, but it is, if we can sell it, if someone wants to pay us for it, that's good. That's good. Well, I can't speak to all those agreements and all the composers, but I mean, there are plenty of people that are writing for the Salvation Army that music would not see the light of day anywhere else. So I think they'd be happy that other people have access to their music and their compositions. Now, if you're talking about Steve Bulla or Jim Curnow or Bill Himes or any of those guys, I don't know. And I'm not sure what arrangements have been made with SA Music Index for that. But I think most people would be happy to have, because we don't pay royalties. We don't pay our arrangers. Hallelujah Choruses, we'll do a score preparation fee. And I think ABJ might do the same thing. It might be like $100, $150, and you get a copy of the score with your piece in it. I know that because I got one piece published, so I have a score. So, but yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what those are. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a while since that youth songbook came out, and that brown book. I don't think it's published anymore. Other things, the Canadian territory, I was hoping John was going to be here, but I know he's got some appointments this afternoon, because there's a Maple Leaf Brass series. but I don't think that's a standard scoring. I think some are like Triumph and some are like General, and it depends. It's not a set thing, and there are pieces available, but you could look up Maple Leaf Brass and do other things. Oh, sorry. Do we have another mic that we can? Ah, okay. Sorry about that. Now that we're almost done, I'm sorry, folks. Any other questions? Run up here and I'll hand you the mic. If you do have any questions at any time, again, Martin.Thomas, it's usc.salvationarmy.org. Just make sure Martin is with a Y, spelled properly. But I'd be happy to chat anytime or help you figure out and find stuff, work with Trade Central. Our department has been working a lot with Trade Central about improving the website and making stuff easier to find and more accessible. We're excited that we've been able to share stuff with SA Music Index. Also, the American Festival Series is also available on SA Music Index digitally, but also through our trade department as well. So we're trying to make things more available. If you do go to SA Music Index, they do have recordings of all the Hallelujah choruses. So if you're not sure and you want to listen to a recording, all of those are available to listen to on SA Music Index, so that you can hear stuff. Again, you can buy our CDs, but if you just want to listen and go, oh, okay, that's what that one is, or that arrangement, or I know that hymn tune, but how did this arrangement of that hymn tune work out? That kind of stuff. So that's all available on SA Music Index. So that's really helpful, that you can go on and listen to stuff. But as far as the Hallelujah choruses, all the audio recordings are available so that you can preview them and listen to them there. My next composition myself, I have a Christmas piece that I've been working on, and I'm hoping to prepare it for ABJ. It's close. I just have to refine it. It's too long right now to fit on one page, so I have to add some repeats and figure out how I can do that. It's been like a 10-year process in getting this done. But I do have, in the new Hallelujah Chorus arrangements, I did an arrangement of Jehovah is Our Strength, Darwalls. So that's in the new Hallelujah choruses. I think that one turned out pretty well. So I get at least, one arrangement per year usually. And the Hallelujah choruses keep my chops up. But as far as big band stuff, or larger band things, I have a thing on, I saw Three Ships. And so I'm preparing it, but I could share that with you. Be happy to.